There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. We got a special episode today. UTSA Athletic Director Dr. Lisa Campos is joined us today to talk all things UTSA. And I got some Texas State questions. So make sure you guys get your questions in early because we got loads to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Ms. Campos.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you have been one of the most requested guests for a while, so I'm glad that we can make some time to do this.
Well, that's a little shocking and a little humbling at the same time.
Yeah, people want to hear from you. People want to hear from you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Of course, just want to just how are you feeling this week? Texas State, UTSA, there's a lot going on, but just in general, before we get into some of the other stuff, how are you feeling about this week?
UTSA? Yeah, you know what? I don't want to violate any of the culture pillars, so every week is the week, right? Not looking ahead, but obviously this week there's a lot with just the proximity of our schools, with us losing last year, with the connection between GJ Kenny and Coach Traylor. So a lot of different storylines, I guess you can say, for this week.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk to you about like how big. I want to get into like how big this week is for the athletic department, right? I think there's an opportunity. I've seen a campaign about breaking the single game attendance record and trying to get over 57,000 folks into the stands. And I know there will be some fundraising opportunities probably, and it's also I think a huge opportunity to showcase a big time game in the city of San Antonio from a UTSA standpoint, since we hadn't had a big time D1 program come visit the Dome in a while. Outside of UTSA being victorious on the field, what are sort of your goals for the department this week?
Yeah, every game for us is a big time game from, whether it's a conference rival, whether it's non-conference, even looking at UIW next week, what a special game that is to play, two San Antonio teams. A couple of years ago when we did it, the city of San Antonio embraced it. So for us, like I said, every game is really big, and our goal is always the same. Like, we want to sell the Alamo Dome out, and in a city of this size, why not us, right? And how this city has supported UTSA athletics, like, it's just such a great opportunity to engage San Antonio, for our fans to come out, and that's what we want. Our student athletes deserve that, our coach deserves that, and the city of San Antonio, we deserve a nationally recognized Division I program, and that comes with getting 40, 50,000 fans in the stadium.
Gotcha. So explain to me this. So in a game, what is the difference, or is there a difference in a situation where, let's say, we hit the 57,000 mark this weekend, which I hope we do? What is the difference in terms of revenue or anything that could bring in for UTSA with a 57,000 person game versus like a 25,000 game? Because you give me some context on that, or does it matter at all?
Yeah, no, first of all, our goal is always to sell season tickets, right? That is one of the best ways to support this program. And it not only supports football, it's supporting all of our programs. So all of our other coaches know, like, get out there and help sell season tickets for football. Like, it's a great bargain. It's better than buying 6 individual game tickets. So it's good for our community. It's good for UTSA athletics. We know that we have a guaranteed seat in there for all 6 home games, and maybe a 7th when you add the championship game. But yeah, I mean, going from 20 to over 50,000 is huge for us in a lot of different ways. But more importantly, there's a reason why we're 27-3 at home, right? And it's because of the passion of this fan base. And it's hard, when you play in a stadium that holds 65,000, really our attendance, we say it's at 35,000. But when you're in a stadium that large, it's hard to recognize that, in Conference USA, we were leading attendance. In the American, we're in the upper third, and we're competing against schools that have been competing for hundreds of years. If, we're only 56 years old, our football program is only in its 15th season. So, I give a lot of credit to San Antonio that they come out and we're competing there from an attendance standpoint. even in the American.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to take a step back real quick. I want to like look at the season as a whole from UTSA standpoint, like, and I'm thinking about the entire athletic department for UTSA, and like what I don't know what the goal is 5 years out. So I guess that's like this will be a two-part question because that's one of them. Like, where do you see UTSA in 5 years? The athletic department specifically, and the second part to that question is, after the seasons from women's basketball, the baseball team, how important is it for UTSA football to bounce back and have a big season this year to continue to push UTSA toward those 5-year goals? I'm assuming that's set for UTSA.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much uncertainty, and I know people get tired of hearing that, but there is so much uncertainty in our industry and intercollegiate athletics. So I think every athletic director is looking for that crystal ball of what does the future look like. But since we don't know, we do scenario planning, right? We look at what could it look like, what may it look like, and all we can do right now is invest and position ourselves for whatever that next round of, whether it's realignment, whether whatever that looks like. My job duty, my priority is to continue positioning ourselves. And as you said, when conferences are looking at realignment, when American Athletic Conference looked at us, it was because football was doing really well. And we know that the TV deals are based on football. There's some basketball in there, but it is based on football. So when people ask, why are we investing in football, that's where we need to focus our attention, because it is good for the entire program. That's, again, how you position yourself for conference realignment. And then you think about, the American, why the American, and we've talked about this before, that historically the the conference championship from the American has gone on to that CFP, has gone on to the New Year's Six Bowl. And that's what we're positioning ourselves for. And, long-winded answer, but we talk all the time about why athletics is important. It is the front porch of the institution. We have a president who completely believes in that. And how do we leverage that for San Antonio, for the institution? And that's my job. What I think about every day is how do we position this to get into a super regional in baseball, right, to get into the CFP in football, to win conference championships and get into NCAA for basketball, because all of those eyeballs come back to UTSA and San Antonio.
Right. I think one of the things I want to, just following up on that, on your statement here, I want to sort of ask about like big time donors and big time corporations within San Antonio. I think there's a lot of discussion. I can tell you every week I do my show that there's a lot of questions about this particular topic and about UTSA's. I don't know if it's inability, but just not having some of those notable big time donors that you see from like, what is it? University of Memphis with the whole FedEx thing that they got going on, right? Could you talk a little bit about like how important is that going to be in the positioning that you guys are trying to do for UTSA?
Yeah, it's really important for everyone. We really proud of ourselves that there's an entry point for everybody, right? Whether it's being a $50 donor in the raft, to being a 7-figure donor, to being a sponsor from a corporation standpoint, all of that is so critical. And again, a huge credit to all the major corporations in San Antonio who are invested and who believe in UTSA and its vision, whether they're investing in UTSA athletics or investing in the institution as a whole. A huge credit to Robert at PlayFly, who is going out there and being creative. The Humex sponsorship we just announced, the energy, that he is going out there. And again, we're finding an entry point for, not just the big corporations, but for all businesses here in San Antonio that want to be involved and be a part of a great thing that's happening here at UTSA.
Yeah, you mentioned PlayFly. Talk to me about PlayFly. Well, it's another topic that comes up a lot, but I've spent a good amount of time with Jordan Pelt, and having conversations with him. Really nice guy. I really like him. But I want to know like how much. I know it's early days, but how much have they impacted, or what impact have they made early on? Because at least my understanding of what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to be like a transformative group that's really going to come in and improve our strategy in terms of building partnerships across the city, and connecting some of these businesses and things like that with UTSA and the players. So could you talk to me about the impact they've had so far?
Yeah, for sure. So just a reminder, so we have PlayFly, who's our multimedia rights holder for
PlayFly
all
Max. Yeah,
sponsorships, athletic wise. And then of
yeah.
course we have Jordan, who's the GM for PlayFly Max. And the concept of that, and again, this is a new space for all athletic programs. The concept for that is he is going out to small, medium, large companies and finding a partnership with our student athletes directly for an NIL deal, right? And that's the way of the world right now. NIL, we got to figure out more of those partnerships with these companies, and that's what he's charged to do. He's also charged with creating events, experiences that again are going to bring dollars in for the NIL. So he's been with us a couple of months. We're in good company with some other institutions that are using PlayFly Max. And so what's great about that, you get a lot of these schools, their heads together. What's working at one school? Can it work here? Is there national opportunities from a sponsorship standpoint? So, again, it's a new space that we're all learning more about and getting better every day.
Yeah, I think the NIL and the rev share, all of this stuff is interesting. And I know you guys are doing a lot to try to navigate that situation. But I have a couple questions about that. So from my perspective, it felt like we were late to the party on the whole NIL thing. And whenever I see teams like or schools like Middle Tennessee, for example, the thing they did with the alternate uniforms, and they've found a way to to save or something $600,000 or something. You see like some of these schools around the country that are like being really creative and innovative in how they are finding a way to improve their resource pool. What is UTSA doing? I feel like I haven't seen anything like innovative and creative from UTSA, and it seems like we sort of lagging behind in this. Could you speak to that a little bit? Am I looking at that wrong, or is it just taking us a while to find our footing?
Yeah, no, I would say, so remember, NIL has been around for several years, and we were really proud. We were in Conference USA when it first came out, when institutions couldn't be really involved, but we were the very first school within the conference that rolled out our plan. So this, we're going back 5 years now that we were the first school that rolled out, here's how we're going to address NIL as we could from a state perspective, from a NCAA perspective. And then obviously it's evolved, right? Mm-hmm. Now with the House settlement, we knew that was coming down the pike, and preparing ourselves for that and leading the way. I think we were one of the very few institutions across the country that actually paid our student athletes on July 1 when they were eligible to be paid. People were still figuring it out. So we're really proud of how we actually have been ahead of this. In terms of the creativity, the innovation, we're all doing the same thing, right? We're all trying to figure out what are extra events, the concert series, how are we creating more game day experiences? Last year I had an opportunity to take my team to the Cowboys leadership, and we met with some of the Dallas Cowboys leadership. Said, listen, our world is turning more professional, particularly in football. Teach us, what are some things that you think we should be thinking about? And we bring some of those ideas back, whether and we were doing like the concession roundup, whether we were doing again some of the on-field experiences. So we're going to continue to all of us will continue to steal ideas from one another and really find what's going to work for San Antonio. There's different partnerships that we're engaging in. Again, that is the name of the game right now, is all of us are trying to find what are those revenue streams. Again, we were one of the first schools to engage with PlayFly Max. We're in good company, Baylor down the street. They might have beat us by about a day in their engagement with PlayFly Max, but all of us are doing these same things of, it's new space for us, and we're going to continue to evolve as this whole industry evolves.
Right. Well, what it sounds like from that, which appreciate the comment there on that. What it sounds like is that my feeling that UTSA has been lagging behind is not correct. But what I will say to that is I think a lot of people in the fan base share that though, right? And I think one of the things I was talking to Jordan about is we need to hear that story. We need to hear these things so we can sort of help push the momentum forward. You know, what are you guys doing on that level to like make sure things are getting out there? Because I think UTSA has a great story to tell, but everyone's heard the startup story already, right?
Right.
And to me, I think there's a little bit of fatigue of that. It's like, all right, now we've reached this level where we've done we've done a ton of great things with probably limited resources from my vantage point, from the people I've talked to around the program. How do we frame that next step for UTSA and frame it in a way that's going to get people behind it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The time is now. The message is what's good for San Antonio is good for UTSA and vice versa. And that people need to act with urgency right now, right? Again, the world is changing. If we don't invest today, we're going to be so far behind. And so whether I'm out talking to a chamber, whether I'm at, I lots of events that I'm invited to, is that's what we're talking about. It is a special time in our point in history with UTSA, with the merger with UT Health, our new UT San Antonio. Like, now is the most exciting time to be investing. And when we look back 15, 20 years, whatever that might look like, what we did today, how it impacted us, and what that means for our future is going to be amazing. And so people, again, I think when people believed back 20 years ago why bringing football to UTSA was important, it's the same message, that investing now is really critical and we need to have some urgency about it.
Cool. I'm going to bring in a question because you brought up the merger. This is from one of the folks who's here every week. Jacob says, "How does the new merger directly benefit the athletics department, and is there any deferred maintenance plan for athletic facilities with the recent $190 million funding from the UT system?"
Yeah, so a couple of questions in that. Obviously for the merger, as soon as I learned about it, and we've already been doing partnerships with UT Health, and so it's directly helped us already, even before this official announcement, right? When I got here a few years ago, we didn't have a full-time team physician, we didn't have physical therapists, we didn't have mental health. We got on that right away. And obviously, Dr. Henrich, the late Dr. Henrich, Dr. Amy knew that this was coming. And they approached me and said, find any partnership with UT Health. And the most common sense was through our sports medicine program. And so it's already directly helped us. We are like a P4 school when it comes to sports medicine. We have a full-time team physician housed in our race facility. We have the resources, from a staff perspective, but not only that, our student athletes have top care, access to top care. They have, concierge service if they need ear, nose, throat, whatever. Like, that was sort of the initial partnership before the merger. Now with the merger, again, how that helps UTSA athletics in particular, we look more now like a Big Ten school, right? And those things matter.
Right.
We are going to be more nationally recognized through that partnership, and things that again matter to other presidents when you're looking at different realignment. Those things matter, and that's what we're going to look like. To be determined in terms of the defer, the $190 million funding for deferred maintenance. Those plans are still coming together, but just a reminder to our fans out there that athletics in the state of Texas, we don't have access to state dollars. We are an auxiliary. We have to be self-sufficient. And that's, we know that. And so that's why it's so important for us to have the engagement, the support of our city. That's why, you look at our facilities, there's a reason why we steward relationships with the county, the city, why we form those partnerships, because we have to be really creative in the dollars that we're getting, because we don't have access to the state dollars. And I'll say, those partnerships with the city and the county, how they help build this beautiful facility I'm in, Park West Fieldhouse, the basketball practice facility, like, that's not happening in other communities. Like, that is something very special for San Antonio.
Okay, you mentioned of P4 in the Big Ten. It's Rab here has a question. I think it's relevant to this discussion. And it's a question I have too. UTSA used to bring some P4 schools to the Dome. Basically, when is that happening again? It'd be great, but yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while, and I will tell you, the better we are, the less those schools want to play us, right? So
Okay.
that is something we are constantly looking at, and even going away. People just have recognized what a product we have, what a great team we have, and there's not a lot of appetite for schools to want to play UTSA. Particularly the P4 schools, but it's something that we work on all the time. And it's something that is important to, our players love to play the A&Ms and the Texas,
Mhm.
and to get something like that. I think we had Baylor a couple of years ago, but yeah, that is something that we continue to strategize. And but it is the curse, and basketball is experiencing it, that on the women's side, that it's hard to schedule whenever you're winning.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. Speaking of the coaching, right? I want to talk. I mean, you've done a really good job hiring some coaches. Um, Talk to me about that. Like, what I guess what is your process like whenever you're evaluating coaches and like bringing them in? I think one of the unique things about this is that I have a lot of friends across the country who are following other schools, who are either coaching or not, and they talk about like Coach Trailer all the time. They talk about Hallmark all the time. They talk about Coach Aston all the time. Talk to me about like just them in general and what sort of the process you've went through to hire some of these really great coaches.
For sure. People always talk about a superpower. That might be my gift, is just having a great sense of people, right? Like, I just know, and it's vetting, right? Like, I am
Mhm.
so blessed in this profession to have been, just have a lot of mentors, have a lot of colleagues who I can call and get a lot of information about different coaches, right? Or different candidates, and whether that's on the staff side, whether that's on the coaching side. And so it starts, number one, with like finding a coach that matches our values. What is UTSA all about?
Mhm.
I talked earlier. I know we're such a young institution. So what does that mean? We have to hire builders. This program, it
Yeah.
requires people who are not afraid to take risks, to fall forward, to roll up their sleeves and build it. And if you look at our cadre of coaches, they're builders. They know how to do it. They know how to do it for less than what other schools are doing. And that's just the trajectory we're on right now, or the moment we're in right now. And that's going to change, right? With the success that they're having. You look at baseball, like what they were able to do. We have had so many supporters come forward and say, how do we help? And we weren't getting that before baseball did well, right? But now people want to be a part of a winning program. And
Right.
so for our coaches, again, it's making sure we're aligned in our values, making sure that they understand what UTSA is
Yeah.
about and what we need. It's about making sure that they are going to be developing 18 to 22-year-olds, and know that this is an educational institution, and
Mhm.
that matters. And then again, it's a lot of vetting and making sure that there's no red flags, and that we found the right person that's going to fit UTSA.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question here. I, and I'm sure we can relate to this, but one of the things in my experience and just being in leadership and where I'm at and on my day job, what I found difficult, that can be difficult, is leading and managing high performers. That can be a challenge because they're very demanding and they want what they want so they can perform well, and you want to please them because they make you look good. So I know that firsthand. Flipping this or putting this on your table here. I've heard Coach Trailer. I've heard some of all the coaches talk about resources, facilities. The cover pavilion is something that's always a topic of discussion, and wanting more and more and more. And whenever I see that, I'm like, I know that's not an easy conversation to have, because now you have to go and explain to them what that process is like, if it can happen, if it can't happen, and if it doesn't happen, why. And they're going to bang the desk about it. Talk to me about that process of like managing your coaching staff and them being demanding, saying that I want this and I want this yesterday.
Yeah, that's the kind of coach I love. Like, coaches that are complacent, that are just riding with it, is not what we want. We want coaches who are going to want to be better, right? They're going to identify what's going to make them competitive. And then that's our job as an athletic director, as a staff, is to figure out how to make that happen. And it's, some of these projects are going to go quicker than others, and others, there's a priority list. But if you were, when I got here 7-8 years ago, it was facilities, right? We didn't really have one Division I quality facility, with the exception of the Alamo Dome. And so we went to work. We went to work on this facility, the race facility that is the hub of UTSA athletics. Like, this was meant for every, 400 student athletes, coaches, staff. And I think, when we built it, they're like, okay, now we have some momentum. And then we, did some other projects. Then NIL hits us and transfer portal hits us. And then now I'm hearing not only facilities, but also NIL. And then we got to work on that, right? So I think, for me, it is always, I'm always transparent. I think, I heard Coach Hallmark say it on an interview that, listen, when Lisa hired me, she let me know very clearly what the baseball facility was like. She let me know, here's the plan, but it's going to take time, right? Like, it's no surprise to us. We need to do something with the baseball field. We have been working on that. It takes dollars. It takes planning. There's a process. So I'm always very, very transparent with coaches. Here's what we can do. Here's what we're working on doing. And here might be the time frame to do it. And so I think when you're honest, and particularly with the coaches that might not be, that are next in line, but not at the top of the line, having those tough conversations. But I think coaches appreciate it. They at least know where they are in the order of whatever they're asking for, and knowing that we're working on it. But that's always been my key, is being transparent and clear in my communication.
Dr. Campos, are we ever going to get the covered pavilion?
Well, I will tell you, if you have not noticed, Jeff really hasn't been talking about that, because, again, priorities change, right? Like, it's still really important.
Yeah.
But it was like pavilion, and then NIL came, and now he knows it's NIL, right? We got to get the players. And so that's still on our list. But NIL has definitely surpassed that on the list, but it's still on it.
Yeah, I did hear, this could be wrong. This could be wrong, but just what was floating out there was, at a point in time, the covered pavilion was within the budget for it was like almost there. And then we waited a year, and now it's sort of not as reachable or realistic from a budgetary standpoint as it once was. Is that where we are?
That somewhat accurate. What happened is, when we built this facility at $40 million in the height of COVID, or at the start of COVID, we knew that phase 2 was going to be the practice, or the Park West Field House and the pavilion. And as we went through, after COVID, we all know what happened, right? Prices skyrocketed. Yeah. Then you got tariffs that came in place, and then you got people who got nervous about how they were donating, because the world was just in a different place. So that, we had always intended for phase 2 to be the pavilion, but the world changed. We look very different, and hopefully things will stabilize at some point. But yeah, so it was just in the staging of that project.
Cool. I got 2 more questions for you, because we're almost at the 30 mark, and I think I told your team I only was going to hold you for 30 minutes. But the first question I have is sort of about former players and player relations, right? I think one of the things that some of us who, I was there, I don't even like to say it, what is it, 15 years ago now? It makes me feel super old. But in all seriousness, I think one of the things we notice is, a lot of the players who are professional, who made it professionally, a lot of attention is around those guys, right? And they should be. It should be. That's sort of the goal. But I think there's a lot of the other athletes that's graduated who may not made it professional. In my opinion, I look at that should be your own kind of mini sales team right there. Like, who are going to be the better advocates for UTSA than the athletes that played, and graduated from the school and things like that. And I owe this to my group chat to sort of ask you this question. They're like, for example, I'll use the game, the UIW game with the original 18. I think there's going to be a recognition thing of us there. And one of the things that have been sort of complaints that have been coming up is like, hey, I'm not getting notifications. Nobody's reaching out. It's an issue, right? I think when the original 18 sort of flyer went out about like, hey, you guys, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. I got that email, but a couple of other guys, but a lot of the guys in our group chat didn't get it. Most of them did not get any kind of notification. And guys were upset, as they should have been. But just in general, how do you guys plan on improving or continuously improving the player relations thing? Because I feel like there's been ebbs and flows. I know when our old coach Kevin Brown, was sort of doing some of this stuff, he was really good about it. At least we felt like we were in the loop, but we haven't felt in a loop for a while. I mean, I'm in a loop because I'm like doing all this other stuff, but some of my former teammates don't feel like that. Like, what are you guys doing to improve that area?
Yeah, great question. I would encourage anyone who's a former student athlete, like, update your information, because we get bounce back emails. We are constantly doing outreach to our student athletes, our coaches. We have our varsity club, our letter winners club. We have reunions, and consistently we don't have great contact information, right? So you graduate, you're asked to fill out some forms at graduation. We're asking, we're like, don't give us your UTSA email because we know you don't use it. Like, what is the email you're actually going to use? Or what's the form of communication? Email may be good for your group, but it's not for these later, the recent graduating classes. So those are things that, however, if you have contact information and your friends don't mind giving it to us, like having you give it to us, we need updated records. And so we don't want anyone to ever feel left out. Again, we post some things on social media. People are on that. The emails, we need updated contact information. And so we can get better, but we, again, have our varsity club. We just had a Zoom meeting with our varsity club members, our letter winner group, and just to hear from them, like, what is it? What do you want us to do? How can we better interact? So we're doing that outreach, but if we can get more participation, if we could get better contact information, we do, again, different reunions. And then I think one of the really fun things that we've done, we had never had a Hall of Fame. And to be able to have started that 3 years ago, and to honor the past, like, we now have a Hall of Fame room here in the race center. And it is, that is what our student athletes see every time they go in and out of the building, and to see these Hall of Famers and former student athletes, like, that's really, really important to us. And so I would, again, encourage anyone who's listening, get on our website, and, send us your most current contact information. We have a varsity club, our letter winners club, link on there that we want people to fill that out so that we can get in touch.
Of course. Last question is a two-parter. It's about the first one is like mostly on marketing, right? I think there's a lot of talk. I don't live in San Antonio anymore, so I'm not like, this is totally on the behalf of like my audience and my network. But a lot of folks have shown some frustration with some of the outreach, or they're not either them not getting things, or feeling like, just not feeling included, or not feeling a great connection. What are you guys doing to address that? And if you had a message to a lot of the UTSA supporters out there that may watch this channel or that may be in my network, what would that message be to them?
Yeah, you know what? We need everyone. This program has been built on the support of San Antonio, the support of our alum, the support of our student athletes, and we need them to invite, their 1,000 closest friends, to all of our events, particularly football. That's going to be really key, and that for however feedback people want to give us, like, we're so open. Like, that's what's so special about UTSA in our infancy, right? We are not steep in tradition, so we're creating tradition, and we are going to try new things. And so but just, a thank you to those who continue to support us, who help us spread the message, who help us find different ways, listening to our fan base of the things that we want. Some of the in terms of the marketing that you talk about, some of the fun things that we've done in partnership with our community. We have this partnership with Goodwill. Like, we partnered with their call center, and they are making something like, I'd have to look at the stats, but something like 300 or 700 calls a day on our behalf to San Antonio, to the citizens of San Antonio, saying, come to a UTSA game, come buy a season ticket, come be involved. So it's pretty cool to see, us being a part of that economic development and that workforce with Goodwill, but then vice versa, them helping us grow that fan base and grow our season ticket base. So, I thank you for being part of our 210 group. So those are things to engage our fans. Like, how can you help us go out there and spread the great word? And particularly as a student athlete, like, our fans love that, right? They want to hear your experience. They want to hear your passion. And that's going to sell people to really get on board.
Of course. I know I'm over 5 minutes or 6 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks so much, Lisa, for everything you do as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I got to head off to our coaches show.
All right. Say hello to Taylor for me. I'll see you guys next week. Or no, this weekend also.
No, right. I better see you Saturday. Are you coming Saturday?
Yes, Saturday. I'll be there.
All
Saturday.
right. Absolutely. We need you and 1,000 of your closest friends.
Of course. I'll try to get in there.
In Orange.
I got you. I will be there. I'll see you. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Bye.
All right, folks. I am going to go about 20 minutes and answer any questions about Texas State or about this discussion with Dr. Campos. What did you guys think about it? Let me know. I think the conversation went pretty well. I think that was pretty cool. To have her on and for her to be willing to answer some of those questions. I think, I feel like I was trying not to play too much of hardball. I don't know if I played hardball enough or too little, but let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, I'm going to try to see if we got any questions here that were not directed at her, and I'll roll through those. Let's see. Some people are liking the interview. It's Rab. I have to see what he says. He says the P4 to the Dome is about money. Why can't we pay to bring them? Well, we don't have the money to pay to bring them. I know that for sure. Like, yeah, I can answer that one. And, she doesn't have to be on here for that. Like, we're trying to get money. We can't pay a P4 team to come to us. I think the closest comparison to UTSA is actually fellow conference mate USF. They don't have as much cash, but they're an AAU member with a medical school. Yeah. USF is a pretty I think they're probably the closest to our situation as well. I seen a lot of y'all's questions in here, and I felt like a lot of what I asked her already covered a lot of what y'all are asking. I asked about a lot of the marketing stuff. That she answered some stuff about the marketing. I covered some of the stuff about donors, but she's never going to give like she's not going to give too much info or insight on some of that stuff. But I thought it went reasonably well, to be completely honest. So yeah, it was an interesting conversation. I'm just going to go through some of these to see if we have any Texas State stuff. If you guys didn't see my video that I posted yesterday, I broke down Texas State because I knew my conversation with Campos would take a lot of the time to not go as deep into some of the X's and O's of what to expect um, on Saturday. But we will see as I go through. Let's see. Do we have? I see Owen McCown, but he's talking about why are we not marketing him enough. All right, here we go. All right, Darian, how confident do we feel on Saturday? Do we think the play calling, if limited, like we have been several games, can prevent us from having a higher ceiling? Yeah, I want to talk about this really quick. I think that I am nervous about Saturday, y'all. I gotta be real honest. I am very nervous about Saturday. I'm gonna be honest with you. I went back and watched the game. I've watched UTSA, at least all the plays, offense and defense, I think 4 or 5 times over. I think 4 times. And I watched the Texas State game 3 times. And my biggest takeaway is, I mean, look, I don't know any great way to say this, but I don't feel good about our offensive coordinator and his ability to consistently deliver good play calling drive after drive after drive. It's not all like we're not going like I feel like his play calling would be great if we were just better than a team and we had just more supreme talent than teams. So I think we'll like lean on teams that are just less talented than us. But when there's not that much of a talent gap and guys are evenly matched, and you're playing a team that's well coached that may have a high powered offense, as it appears that Texas State probably does, I worry about that because I look at a situation where, and let me just tell you why. I look at a situation where it's probably going to be a high scoring game. Both defenses, right? Both defenses have a lot to prove. UTSA, I mean, just calling a spade. UTSA's defense didn't have a uber inspiring performance against Texas A&M that has you feeling really good about coming into this game against an offense that's rolling and has some confidence. So then you go into offense and you go into like the offensive players and like you look at the players on both teams, and I say, well, I still think player for player, UTSA has more talent, but the difference between how, the difference between that talent is not as big as some people may think if we're just being real, if you like cut on the tape. So then it goes down to coaching. And I'm like, you know what? They have a really good play caller over there. I don't know if our play caller is very well. It's just not my cup of tea. We put up big numbers on the offensive side of the ball. We did that last season. But I just don't know if, like, in a game like this where it's going to be back and forth and it's going to be high scoring, like, which offense is going to be more efficient. I think we have the players to do it. I don't know how many drives are going to be wasted because the play calling doesn't allow for us to do well. That's why I'm worried. I'm trying my best to like not freak out over that, but that's one of the things that I'm just like, it just makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. Let me see. Let me follow. Okay, we got some questions. We got a lot of questions coming in now. He says she gave some partial answers, but fair enough. Much more likable than our mayor. Listen, I did like. Here's the thing. I know what you're going to get on these things. She's also talking to a crowd of people. She knows there's going to be a good amount of UTSA diehards that'll see this. So it's almost like, she has to campaign for what the department she's running, right? So you can ask the questions. I asked some follow-ups to try to get a little bit more directness with some of them, but you're going to get what you're going to get. And, it is what it is. Great interview, though. There's some people who likes to interview. Great film breakdown. Henry Jr. is nice. Curious to see how UTSA opens up the offense this week. I hope they open it up. That's the thing. I hope they open it up. Great interview. Do you have any insight on Project Marvel as it pertains to UTSA? Not enough to make a definitive comment about it. I think there are people that are probably a little bit more educated on that than I am. What do you think about GJ Kinney saying that this game should be on ESPN and not ESPN Plus? I feel like the coaches are acknowledging the rivalry more this season than the past two meetings. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It should be on ESPN because, I mean, it's a big time Texas game where you're going to have close to 50 plus thousand people there filling out and packed out Alamo Dome. And it's going to be super loud with, like, when you think about the relationships, there's so many storylines, the relationship between the coaches, the fact that UTSA has dominated and then we got blew out last season, right? I think and I'm kicking myself because one of the questions I was supposed to ask her was I was on a Texas State podcast today doing a preview with them, and I was obviously talking about UTSA, but one of the things that popped up to me and it started thinking in my mind, and I should have asked Campos was, guys, obviously there's an on-field element to this, but like they are doing some things that are a little bit more strategic than we are from a fundraising standpoint. I know that school's been around for a much longer time, but those things are kind of concerning from a UTSA standpoint, because that gap seems to be close. I mean, the gap. I base everything off football, but the gap has closed some. I think that much is pretty clear. But yeah, I think you gotta acknowledge it as a rivalry because guess what? Like, I know people don't like this, and I'm sure It's Rab is going to be on cue with a comment that comes here later. But I don't think it's a bad thing that both schools have relevancy. From a college football standpoint, I don't think it's a bad thing where now when both schools come together, it's a huge event, right? Like, yeah, I want to win every single one of them, but to the extent that there's a rivalry, I'm not mad at that. Like, and people are like trying to say, oh, well, I don't want to acknowledge the rivalry and all of that. I don't know why not. It's fun. It's more exciting. And I know some of that is like a little tongue in cheek and that sort of thing. Being a certain way toward, Texas State. I completely understand that, right? But at the same time, like rivalries, is what keeps people interested, what keeps people invested, and what starts to build, that gives you something to build on. We can't just force ourselves to have a rivalry with a team that's not even looking at us. So yeah, I think it's good, and I think it's regional. It's close. We're recruiting a lot of the same players. I just think it makes sense, man. It makes sense. Play calling went downhill after Will. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Yes, insight on how Project Marvel pertains to UTSA. He says I might have to make a big sign that says Burke is no bueno for the Dome this season. Listen, not this week. Not this week. Too early. Does Texas State have a downfield threat? Also, do you know why we don't see a guy like Wilson getting more PT as our downfield threat? So, do they have a downfield threat? I didn't get the impression that they do, but they do have a threat. Like, Bo Sparks is the guy they want to get the ball to on the outside. And they're creative in how they get him the ball, but they like to get him the ball on in-breaking routes. They like to run route concepts that create space for him to catch the ball on the run and to keep going. He had 4 touchdown passes, and they were all pretty much, 3 of them were the same exact play call. And the other one was an in-breaking route also. So I don't necessarily think they have a great downfield threat that we have to be worried about, but they do have a threat on the outside that requires our attention. And whenever you talk about Wilson, AJ Wilson, yeah, I definitely think he should get more playing time. I think, look, man, we have to establish someone downfield that's a threat. I think McEwen and Amador are underneath pass catchers who are really good in space and who are really good in short yardage and intermediate yardage. I don't think it's a great idea to be sending McEwen downfield, on deep routes. Not saying that he can't do it. Of course he can do it. Of course Amador can do it. However, use these guys and make sure that their best strengths are showing. Put them in position to where their best strengths are showing. Or they can rely on their best strengths. We need a guy whose strength is downfield, whether that's him being able to run past people because he's so fast, or whether that's him being able to go win 50-50 balls deep downfield in the air. We have to establish that against Texas State, or it's going to be a long night. Ricky says, you would think with the running game working on all cylinders that it would open up the passing game, especially down the field. I have to agree with you on the play calling offensively has me nervous. Yeah, I'm just sick about it, bro. I'm sick about it, if I'm just being completely honest. Oh yeah, by the way, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel if y'all liked if y'all like the interview, if y'all want me to do more of those. I'm not really a big interview person. I try to do my best at them. I don't think I'm particularly great with them, but let me know if y'all want more content like that. I'll certainly have more people come on if y'all do enjoy that. But make sure if you did enjoy it, like the video, and if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. This season we got a lot rolling this season. But anyway, yeah, I think the running game should open up the passing game downfield. McCown is not the most accurate passer on deep balls, just in general. It's not his strength. He is built for the offense. The offense is run pass option, run pass option, run pass option, play action deep ball. There you go. So yeah, but we have to do something to make teams respect us downfield. Carnivore Trucker says, after watching the game, you don't think it could have been that A&M was too strong up front to allow Owen to get the long back going? I think you mean the long ball going. No, he had time. He had time. They didn't call it. They didn't call much of it, number one. And number two, they were all incomplete passes whenever we did throw the ball deep. In fact, one of them was almost an interception. It should have been an interception. So we don't listen. I don't think it had anything to do with time. It just didn't. We just didn't do it well. It's just that simple. Zeke says, one more question for now. Do we know what's going on with Zach Morris and Armani Rue? Haven't seen them on a depth chart for A&M or Texas State game, but still see them on a roster. No idea. I'll try to ask about it though. UTSA versus Texas State is a rivalry that will heat up in the future, in my opinion. Well, I think it's heating up now. I think this is a big one. It's a wrap. ESPN knows to put UTSA versus P4 teams, not a 1-5 playing UTSA. It's not the same, but if you are a pro rivalry with Texas State, you're a pro wanting UTSA to lose. Yeah, but see, it's rap. So I'm going to go back at this. I'm going to go back at you here. Why can't it be both? It does not have to be one or the other. It does not have to be one or the other. Or not. I'm talking about not like you want UTSA to lose, but you can want UTSA to have it's okay to have a rivalry with this team. That don't mean you want UTSA to lose. Your point on what UTSA needs to grow, if it was that easy, they would have done it already. Everything is not just mindset. You just have this mindset and it's one way and it can only be this. Two things can be right. Andrew says ESPN Plus means the game won't be anywhere in Texas in restaurants and bars. We should be in the game. We should be at this game anyway. San Antonio wants Houston. That's the San Antonio culture. San Antonio wants Houston. This one might be going over my head. I don't know what you mean by that one. Andrew says, I think that UTSA versus UH was a better football rivalry for us. Okay. Yes. If you're talking about that, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I like UTSA versus U of H. I think that's a good one. We had success against them. They had success against us. Yeah, I agree with that. I'd actually love if we can start to get that schedule. But to Campos' point, she said it's hard for teams don't want to play us. Can you blame them? We're a team that shouldn't be doing as good as we're doing. We're overachieving under trailer. So I get it. I don't think that was a BS answer there. I think that was legit. Do you think the size of the O-line will hold against the UTSA I'm assuming you're saying Texas State's O line will hold against UTSA's defensive line. Is size a burden for them? I think they're fine on the offensive line, but I do think. Listen, they weren't tested last week. Eastern Michigan did not put their quarterback under pressure. They ran all over Eastern Michigan. They did not get challenged. That offensive line didn't get challenged. The quarterback wasn't under any pressure. Their offense did not get challenged. This is really their opening week with reputable and competent, players and on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Eastern Michigan. Like I respect everybody who puts on that helmet and shoulder pads, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. They weren't very good. So so to answer your question, it's kind of early we'll see on the day. We'll see on the day. It's rap. That's what Texas State did. Forced their way to a team not looking at them. UTSA out best years growth and brand recognition is the years we didn't play them, and that's facts. Look at championship years. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll go back to the thing that I'll say before. There's not only just one way to do something. There's not no. Eric says, I saw your breakdown for the upcoming game. Are you more open to Owen being under center for the run game after A&M? Yes, I am, because I was not liking any of the under center play calls during the game until UTSA just scores 2 rushing touchdowns on them. We ran well out of that, but the passing was abysmal. Every time we tried play action, it was a disaster under center. So I'd prefer. I mean, listen, if we are going to get under center, you got to pass out of there sometimes, or we're just going to be one dimensional, and Texas State's going to be expecting run, and the lanes won't be there. But we have to be better at it. Basically, the execution has to be better. To be honest. Texas State alum here, pulling for the Bobcats, but hope both teams have a good season. All right. It's Rap says, you grow by beating bigger brands. We lose, they grow. We win, nothing happens, and nothing is equal. Okay. With UTSA versus Texas State. I mean, I know your stance on this, and we just will agree to disagree. Christian Tapia says, our rivalry with UNT is not as heated as Texas State. Well, it shouldn't be. I mean, the games have been better. It's been I think a better series, right? But yeah, you're not wrong on there. So Zeke says, is it fair to say another reason why we didn't see the deep ball work was because A&M wasn't pressing our receivers, especially in the second half? It seems like they were 5 yards off in the second half a lot. I mean, it don't matter if they pressing or not. You should still be able to get vertical on a team. You still got to test them. Just because somebody is playing off doesn't mean that they're not going to go deep. Trust me, I know this. So yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with it. I'm telling you what it is. We just don't have the threats, the downfield threats. Our best 2 receivers are short game receivers and intermediate specialists. So yeah. That says UTSA is in a tough spot as a program, overachieved early as a program, never develop a true rival, conference realignment, kill rivalries. I don't disagree. It is a tough spot to be in for sure. Zeke says, I don't want to say it was zone, but since A&M Ratcliffe was peeking into the box, they didn't try to press a lot. Also, no, listen, he was in the box the way as much as he was because there was no threats. There was no threat that was going to get behind, that nobody was going to get behind him. That's when you have a safety cheating up to 10. Whenever you start seeing safeties cheat up in a box like that, they're not worried that you're going to beat them deep or you're even going to try to throw it deep. They're not worried. That's why. That's exactly why. And that's a problem. It's a problem. Texas State said, play Rodeo Clown College. We're coming off a solid performance. Absolutely. That's why this game is hard to break down for me. I know some of you guys are going to head out soon to watch Jeff Traylor stuff. So I'm going to try to wrap up these last few and let you guys get up out of here. Daddy says, overachieving makes it hard to schedule better P4 opponents. Absolutely. It's Rab says, any G6 Texas team is not our rivalry. From Rice to UNT and now Texas State, it just hurts our brand. But UTSA doesn't win versus P4. We are stuck right now, so losing versus any G6 team hurts our brand. So let me ask you a question, H-Rap. We can't schedule these people. We can't. It's not like we have P4 teams up and down our schedule. So who do we make a rivalry with? So we just go right. We just go without having one, right? Like we don't put ourselves in position to have 57,000 or 50 plus thousand people come to the dome. Is that what we do? We don't put ourselves in a position where the fans are bickering with a school and there's all this history or this history being made around some of this stuff and people are excited and chomping at the bit for the game. What do we do then? I'll spin the question back on you. What did you suggest? We can't. We had one P4 team on the schedule. Texas A&M, huge big time school. They already have rivalries. UTSA can't just say, "Hey, you guys are our rival now." So what do we do? Lil says our last 2 televised games were in San Marcos. Not sure why y'all can't get the game televised. I mean, UTSA is Rab needs to chill. It's not that he needs to listen. I get his point. He makes this point every week. It's not a problem at all. Like, I'm just like, what do we do then? That's sort of my thing. It's like, what are we to do? Like, you can't force a rival. That's why I said, like I said, he's not all the way wrong in what he says or about mindset, about some of this stuff and how we should do things we should do things to like grow the program. He's not wrong, but it's also not a one thing or the other. I think that's the issue. That's the problem. He's putting it in a situation where it can only be this or this, you know? And that's the issue I have here. He said, you see my RB1 though. I've been saying this is first year here at UTSA. Oh, Robert Henry. Yeah, Robert Henry. Yeah, dude, he's crazy. Hey, and I'm gonna tell you something now. I think Will Henderson's gonna be sick. I think he's gonna be good. Really, really good. I think that them two is a 1-2 punch. Crazy. Zeke says, gotcha, just figured out ass. Always enjoy getting insight from someone who played DB. Of course, brother. Let's see. Andrew says Illinois was such a rivalry that they took their coaches and took our coaches and best wide out. You gotta watch out for that kind of stuff too. Mr. Meep said, I'd rather be playing Texas State than Houston Baptist or some other nonsense team. Yeah, I'm not tripping, bro. UTSA needs to get to the pack and it's solidified a rivalry in all sports, not just football. I'm not mad with that. All right, I'm gonna end off with a score prediction. I'm going to go. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to go 42-38. UTSA wins. I think it's going to be a high score. I know that's a lot. Bet the over. Not gambling advice. Sorry. That's just my thought. Let's see if we got anything. But I agree with your vibes. We finna beat these Bobcats. I sure hope so. My bad. All right. Hey, make sure for those of you who are here, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. As my man Mrs. Meep said, I look forward to hanging out with you guys this Saturday at the Dome. I will be there. So wave, say hi. I'm going to be in the tailgates looking for you guys. So make sure you guys don't be shy to say something. The weird thing about some of this is y'all see me and I don't see y'all. So when I'm walking around the tailgate and if I don't notice somebody or something like that, it's because I don't get to see everybody's faces. So anyway, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.